A human pulled an alien girl from the fire. Moments later, aliens knelt before him. His ship, a modest but sturdy craft named Horizon, had carried him across countless planets, each with its own wonders and secrets. But nothing in his travels had prepared him for Sci-Fi, a planet known for its strange floating cities and shimmering skies. The moment his boots touched the ground, he could feel that this world was alive in ways different from Earth. The air vibrated softly, almost as if the atmosphere itself was aware of every movement. The marketplace was bustling, more crowded than any Ethan had ever seen. Aliens of every shape, color, and size moved through narrow alleys lined with stalls brimming with goods. Bright fruits that seemed to glow, fabrics that shifted color in the light, and devices that hummed with energy filled every corner. The smells were intoxicating, a mixture of sweet and spicy aromas that made his stomach rumble. Despite the chaos, there was a rhythm to the place, an energy that drew Ethan in. He wandered slowly, observing the Scifi, the dominant species of Sci-Fi. They were tall, graceful beings with translucent skin that shimmered in shades of blue and green. Their eyes were large and expressive, and their hands were long and delicate, almost bird-like. Ethan had learned a few words in their language from a translation guide, but most of his interactions were simple gestures and polite nods. It was enough to keep him from offending anyone. As he turned a corner, a sudden burst of smoke caught his attention. The crowd around him froze for a moment, then scattered in panic as the source of the smoke became clear. A small food stall had caught fire. Flames licked the edges of the structure, sending sparks into the air. Shouts echoed across the marketplace as stall owners hurried to control the fire, but the heat and smoke made it difficult. Then Ethan saw her. A young Sci-Fi girl, no more than 12 cycles old, was trapped near the center of the blaze. Her long, shimmering hair was already singed at the tips, and her delicate hands waved frantically as she tried to climb over the stall's edge. She looked terrified, her large eyes wide with fear, and Ethan's heart sank. Without thinking, he ran toward the fire. The crowd yelled at him to stop, warning him of the danger, but Ethan didn't hesitate. Each step through the smoke was harder than the last, but he focused only on reaching her. The heat stung his skin and the acrid smell made his eyes water, but he pushed forward, driven by instinct. "Hold on!" he shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of the flames. The girl turned toward him, her eyes meeting his. For a moment, time seemed to slow. She opened her mouth to cry out, but Ethan reached her just in time, lifting her into his arms. Her small body was trembling against his chest, and the heat from the fire pressed against them both. Carefully, he stepped backward, trying to avoid the unstable edges of the stall. "Almost there," he muttered, more to himself than to her. The fire crackled and hissed, but he didn't look away. He could feel the girl's fear as clearly as if it were his own. Finally, he reached a safe spot a few meters away from the fire. He set her down gently on the ground, brushing soot from her hair and checking her for injuries. She sat on her knees, coughing lightly, her wide eyes still fixed on him. Ethan offered her a reassuring smile. "You're safe now," he said softly. "It's okay." The girl blinked at him, her expression slowly shifting from fear to awe. She spoke in her melodic language, her voice trembling. Before Ethan could understand a word, a small device on her wrist lit up and translated her words into a language he could comprehend. You saved me," the device said, relaying her message. "No one has ever done that for me before." Ethan felt a warmth spread through his chest. "I couldn't just leave you there," he replied. "Everyone deserves a chance to be safe." The crowd, which had gathered at a safe distance, watched in stunned silence. They whispered among themselves, some pointing at Ethan, others at the girl. It was clear that something unusual had just happened. The Scifi were a proud species, rarely showing gratitude in public, and yet here was a human who had acted without hesitation, without thought of reward or recognition. The girl's small hand reached out tentatively, touching Ethan's arm. It was a simple gesture, but it carried immense meaning. She looked at him with a mix of curiosity and respect, as if she were trying to understand what kind of being he was. Ethan smiled gently and nodded, acknowledging her gesture. From somewhere in the crowd, a voice spoke through another translator device. "Who is this human?" it asked, and all eyes turned toward Ethan. The elders of the marketplace were approaching, their movements slow but deliberate. They were taller than the other Scifi, their skin shimmering with a faint golden hue that marked their status. Ethan straightened, feeling suddenly aware of the attention. The girl, who had been trembling moments ago, stood beside him, her posture more confident now. She introduced him to the elders through her translator device, explaining that he had rescued her from the fire without hesitation. The elders exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Then one of them stepped forward, bowing slightly. "You have done a rare thing, human," the elder said. "You acted without fear and without expectation. That is not common among outsiders." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't do it for recognition, I just saw someone in danger." The elder's eyes softened. "That is precisely why your action is remarkable. To risk oneself without thought of reward is the highest form of honor among the Sci-Fi." Ethan blinked in surprise. He had traveled to many worlds, faced many dangers, but he had never been praised in this way. The idea that a simple act of kindness could carry such meaning was new to him. The girl, whose name was Lyra, stepped closer and spoke again. "I want to thank you properly," she said. "Come with me, there is something you must see." Curious and slightly nervous, Ethan followed her through the crowd. The marketplace seemed to part for them, the Sci-Fi giving them space as they moved. Lyra led him to a small plaza at the center of the city, where a fountain of shimmering liquid arched gracefully into the air. The sunlight hit the liquid, creating a rainbow of colors that danced across the surrounding buildings. "This is where we honor those who show courage and compassion," Lyra explained. "Those who act selflessly are remembered here." Ethan looked around, amazed. Statues of Sci-Fi who had performed acts of great kindness or bravery lined the plaza. Each one depicted a being in motion, reaching out, helping others, or standing firm in the face of challenge. He realized that what he had done was seen as extraordinary here, more than he could have imagined. Lyra smiled up at him, her eyes shining. "You are different from other humans we have met," she said. "You have something we value greatly, courage, yes, but also heart." Ethan felt a sense of humility wash over him. He had never thought of himself as particularly brave. He had only done what seemed right in the moment. Yet here, on this distant world, his actions had meaning beyond himself. As they stood together, watching the sunlight glint off the fountain, Ethan felt a strange connection forming, not just with Lyra, but with the Sci-Fi as a whole. He realized that this moment, born from an unexpected fire, was the beginning of something larger. A bond had been formed, one that crossed the boundaries of species and culture, built on trust and mutual respect. The marketplace around them slowly returned to normal, the fire extinguished and the crowd dispersing. But the energy of the moment lingered, like a quiet hum in the air. Ethan knew that he had stepped into a story far bigger than himself, one that would shape his journey in ways he could not yet imagine. Lyra reached out again, this time taking his hand firmly. "Come with me," she said. "The elders wish to speak with you. They want to honor what you have done." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing. He had acted rightly in saving Lyra, and that simple choice had opened a door to a world he was only beginning to understand. As they walked toward the gathering of Sci-Fi elders, Ethan's mind wandered briefly to his home planet. How strange it was to think that an ordinary human, someone who had merely followed his instincts, could become a figure of respect and admiration on a world light years from Earth. And yet here he was, stepping into a new chapter of his journey, one that promised friendship, discovery, and the possibility of changing lives simply by doing what was right. He glanced at Lyra, who walked beside him with quiet pride. The bond between them was unspoken but undeniable, a silent acknowledgement that they had shared a moment that neither would ever forget. Ethan smiled. Whatever came next, he was ready to face it, not as a stranger in a strange land, but as someone who had already earned the trust and respect of a remarkable alien world. And so, the human and the Sci-Fi girl walked together toward the elders, unaware that the simple act of pulling someone from a fire would set in motion events that could alter the fate of their worlds forever. Ethan followed Lyra through the winding streets of Zyphara's floating city, each step revealing more of the planet's wonders. The buildings, made from a crystal-like material, seemed to shimmer as if the sunlight were dancing through them. Bridges and walkways connected structures in a delicate lattice above the ground, and the air was alive with the soft hum of energy currents. Ethan felt as though he were walking inside a living jewel, each movement reflecting light and color in unexpected ways. Lyra moved with ease, her steps light and graceful, as though she had been gliding through the city her entire life. Ethan had to pause several times to admire the architecture, marveling at the way the structures seemed to float, held aloft by invisible forces. He could see Sci-Fi citizens going about their daily lives, some walking, others using small hover devices, and a few tending to gardens suspended in midair. It was a sight unlike anything he had ever seen, a combination of elegance and ingenuity that left him breathless. Finally, they reached a large open plaza at the heart of the city. Here, the buildings arched around the space in a semicircle, forming a natural amphitheater. At the center, a group of Sci-Fi elders awaited, their golden-hued skin glowing softly in the sunlight. They stood in quiet formation, observing Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and reverence. Lyra led him to the center of the plaza and introduced him to the elders through her translator device. The eldest among them, a tall figure with eyes like liquid amber, stepped forward. "You have acted in a way that is rare," the elder said. "Your courage and selflessness are recognized by all who witness them. You saved one of our own without thought of reward. This is a great honor." Ethan bowed respectfully. "I didn't do it for honor," he said. "I just saw someone in danger and I wanted to help." The elder's eyes softened, and he nodded slowly. "That is why your action is extraordinary. To act without expectation simply because it is right is the highest form of virtue among the Sci-Fi. You have earned our respect." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining with admiration. "I wish to thank him properly," she said. "He has shown that humans can be trusted allies, not just visitors." The elders exchanged glances, their expressions solemn. Then, in a movement that left Ethan momentarily speechless, they knelt in unison. In Sci-Fi culture, this gesture was reserved for those who had earned the deepest respect. The plaza was silent except for the soft rustle of clothing and the gentle hum of energy in the air. Ethan felt a mix of awe and humility. He had traveled across countless planets, faced storms and challenges, and yet he had never been acknowledged in this way. He realized that his simple act of kindness had transcended species, culture, and expectation. It was a moment he would never forget. One of the elders spoke again. "We wish to honor you with a symbol of trust and friendship. It is rare that an outsider is recognized in this way. Please accept this, not as a reward, but as a bond between our peoples." From a small case, the elder produced a pendant made of a crystal that seemed to hold its own light. It hovered slightly in the air as if aware of its purpose, glowing softly in shades of blue and green. Ethan reached out and accepted it, feeling a warmth radiate from the pendant. It was a simple object, yet its significance was profound. "This is more than a gift," the elder explained. "It represents a connection, a promise that our peoples can coexist in trust and friendship. Wear it not for pride, but as a reminder of what courage and compassion can achieve." Ethan nodded, understanding the depth of the gesture. He fastened the pendant around his neck, feeling the subtle pulse of energy against his chest. It was as if the pendant carried the essence of Sci-Fi itself, a silent acknowledgement of his place in their world. Lyra's hand touched his arm gently. "You have shown that humans can act with true heart," she said. "Many of our people doubted outsiders, but you have changed that perception. You are different." Ethan smiled, unsure how to respond. He had never thought of himself as remarkable. He had only acted as any person should when faced with danger. Yet here, on a world far from Earth, his actions had meaning beyond anything he could have imagined. The elders motioned for him to follow them. They led Ethan and Lyra through a series of narrow corridors that opened into a grand hall. The ceiling stretched high above, dotted with glowing crystals that cast a soft light over everything. The walls were adorned with images depicting acts of courage and kindness performed by Sci-Fi throughout their history. Each image seemed to move slightly, as if alive, capturing the essence of the moment it represented. "This is our Hall of Honor," one of the elders explained. "It is here that we remember those who act with true courage and selflessness. Today, your name will be added to this hall, not as a conqueror or ruler, but as a friend and protector." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. He had never sought recognition, yet the significance of this moment was overwhelming. To be honored for an act of pure kindness, without expectation or gain, was a concept he had never fully understood until now. Lyra led him to a pedestal at the center of the hall. The elders placed their hands gently on the surface, and a holographic image appeared above it, showing Ethan reaching into the fire to save her. The image shimmered and rotated, capturing every detail, the smoke, the flames, the fear in Lyra's eyes, and the determination on Ethan's face. "You see," the elder said, "your actions are a beacon. They remind us that courage and compassion are universal, not limited to any species. You have shown that humans, though distant and different, can act with heart and honor." Ethan stared at the image, feeling a mix of pride and humility. He realized that the moment he had acted without thinking, simply following his instincts, had grown into something far larger than himself. It was no longer just about saving Lyra. It was about creating a bridge between worlds. As they left the hall, Lyra spoke softly. "There are others who wish to meet you," she said. "They have heard of what you did and want to see the human who saved one of their own." They walked through the city, and Ethan noticed how the Sci-Fi citizens regarded him with curiosity and respect. Some bowed slightly as he passed, while others whispered to one another. The pendant around his neck seemed to glow faintly, as if acknowledging their recognition. Eventually, they reached a garden suspended high above the city. Plants of every imaginable color and shape floated in the air, tended by Sci-Fi who moved gracefully among them. Lyra introduced him to several families, each expressing gratitude and admiration for his actions. Ethan realized that his simple act of courage had touched more lives than he could have imagined. One of the elders approached him again. "There is something more we wish to show you," the elder said. "It is a tradition that only a few outsiders have witnessed. It is our way of honoring those who have acted with true heart." Curious, Ethan followed the elder and Lyra to a small amphitheater. The center was empty, but the air vibrated with anticipation. Slowly, Sci-Fi from across the city began to gather, forming a circle around him. They knelt as one, a gesture of deep respect and recognition. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest unlike anything he had experienced before. It was as if the entire community were acknowledging his courage, not with words, but through their presence and actions. The elder spoke once more. "Remember, human, that what you have done is not just for one life. It is for all of us. Your heart has created a ripple that will touch generations. You have shown that courage and kindness are stronger than fear. You have given us hope." Ethan bowed his head, deeply moved. He realized that this moment was a turning point, not just for himself, but for the relationship between humans and Sci-Fi. One act of courage had the power to change perspectives, build trust, and create bonds that spanned worlds. Lyra smiled up at him, her eyes filled with pride. "You are a friend to us now," she said. "Not just to me, but to all who live here. We will remember this day forever." Ethan smiled back, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known. On a planet far from home, among beings so different yet so connected by shared values, he had discovered something profound. The true meaning of courage was not in strength or skill, but in the willingness to act for the sake of another. As the sun set over Sci-Fi, casting golden and violet hues across the floating city, Ethan knew that his journey was only beginning. There were still countless wonders to explore, lessons to learn, and friendships to build. But for the first time in his travels, he felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be, among those who valued heart and courage above all else. And with Lyra by his side, guiding him through the beauty and mystery of her world, Ethan understood that even the smallest act of kindness could spark change far greater than he could ever imagine. Ethan awoke to the soft hum of energy that flowed through the floating city of Sci-Fi. The night sky was alive with shimmering lights, streaks of color weaving between the towering crystal buildings. He had spent his first full day learning about Lyra's world, and every moment had been filled with awe. Yet he felt a sense of calm now, knowing that the Sci-Fi accepted him, not as a stranger, but as a friend and ally. Lyra was already awake, sitting near the edge of the balcony in her home, which hovered above the city on a platform of shimmering crystal. Her long, translucent hair glowed softly in the moonlight. She looked at Ethan and smiled. "Good morning," she said. The translator device on her wrist relayed her words clearly. "The elders wish to speak with you again today. There is something special they want to show you." Ethan stretched and nodded. He had learned quickly that Lyra was both patient and wise beyond her years. "Lead the way," he said. They stepped onto a small walkway connecting her home to the rest of the city. Ethan paused, taking in the view. Below them, the city's streets glimmered like rivers of light. Hovering gardens and streams wound around the buildings, creating a sense of harmony between nature and technology. He had seen many worlds, but none combined beauty and ingenuity like this one. As they approached the grand plaza where the elders often met, a crowd of Sci-Fi had already gathered. Some whispered greetings, while others simply observed. Ethan noticed that their expressions were not just of curiosity, but of genuine respect. It amazed him to see how a single act, a simple decision to help someone in need, had inspired so many hearts. The eldest among the elders stepped forward as Ethan and Lyra entered the plaza. His golden-hued skin shimmered faintly under the morning light, and his eyes held a wisdom that spanned decades. "You have been welcomed into our city not merely because of your action, but because of what it represents," the elder said. "It is rare to see a being act with courage and heart without expectation. Today, we wish to show you the traditions that honor such deeds." Lyra guided Ethan to the center of the plaza, where a large, circular platform hovered slightly above the ground. It was decorated with intricate symbols that pulsed softly with energy. The elder gestured for Ethan to stand at the center. "This is the circle of reflection," he explained. "Here, we honor those whose actions illuminate the values we hold dear: courage, compassion, and wisdom. Today, it will show you something extraordinary." Ethan looked around, curious and slightly nervous. A soft glow rose from the platform, forming a holographic projection in the air. It displayed scenes from his life, memories he had never thought significant, but which now seemed important in this world. He saw himself on Earth helping a stranger, navigating storms in his travels, and finally, reaching into the fire to save Lyra. Each moment was connected by lines of light, showing a chain of choices that led to the present. "This is how we see actions human," the elder said. "Every choice creates a ripple. Courage and kindness, once set in motion, expand far beyond the individual. Your simple act of helping Lyra has reached many hearts and minds, both here and in ways yet unseen." Ethan stared, amazed. He had never considered his actions as creating ripples of influence. He had simply done what he felt was right. Yet now, standing among the Sci-Fi, he could see the truth of their words. Small acts performed without thought of reward could indeed create change beyond imagination. Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You see, Ethan," she said, "this is why you are honored. You acted not for recognition, but because it was right. That is rare in any world." The elder continued. "We wish to share another tradition with you. It is called the offering of light. Only those who have performed deeds of courage and selflessness are allowed to witness it." From above, a soft rain of luminescent petals began to fall. They glowed in colors that shifted like the sky at sunset, drifting gracefully through the air before landing gently on the platform. Ethan reached out to touch them, and a faint warmth spread through his fingers. Each petal carried a memory of a Sci-Fi who had acted with courage, a visual reminder of the values that bound their society together. "This is beautiful," Ethan whispered. He had seen many wonders, but nothing compared to the sense of connection he felt here. Each petal seemed to whisper stories of hope, bravery, and kindness. It was a living tapestry of what it meant to act with heart. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting the glow of the petals. "In our culture, we believe that courage is not only about facing danger. It is about choosing to act for the benefit of others, even when it is difficult. You have shown us this, Ethan." The elders stepped closer, forming a circle around him. "We wish to present you with a token of our tradition," the eldest said. "It is not a reward in the sense you may understand, but a symbol of respect and trust. Accept it not for yourself, but for the bond it represents." From a small, floating case, the elder produced a crystal orb that seemed to contain a miniature galaxy, swirling with colors and light. It hovered in the air, emanating a gentle warmth. Ethan reached out, and the orb floated toward him, settling gently into his hands. He could feel a subtle pulse, like a heartbeat, as if the orb itself acknowledged him. "This orb represents the light of the Sci-Fi," the elder explained. "It symbolizes the harmony between courage, compassion, and wisdom. Keep it as a reminder that your actions, however small they may seem, have the power to touch lives." Ethan felt a profound sense of humility. He had never imagined that a single choice could be seen as so meaningful. Holding the orb, he realized that he was not just a visitor on Sci-Fi. He had become part of something greater, a living connection between humans and Sci-Fi. After the ceremony, the elders invited Ethan to walk with them through the city. They explained aspects of Sci-Fi culture that went beyond technology and art, their emphasis on empathy, mutual respect, and community. Ethan listened intently, asking questions and learning about customs that had evolved over generations. He realized that the Sci-Fi valued not only actions but intentions, and that the heart behind every choice mattered as much as the outcome. Lyra walked beside him, her hand brushing lightly against his. She pointed out features of the city that only someone of her age and experience would notice. A garden suspended midair, where petals glowed faintly at night, or a bridge that hummed with energy to guide travelers safely. Ethan marveled at how every element of the city seemed to reflect the Sci-Fi philosophy, beauty, function, and harmony working together seamlessly. As they reached a quiet terrace overlooking the city, Lyra turned to Ethan. "There is one more thing I want to show you," she said. She led him to a small clearing where a crystal pond shimmered with a light that seemed to come from within. "This pond reflects not what you are on the outside, but what is in your heart," Lyra explained. Ethan knelt beside the pond and looked into the water. At first, he saw only his reflection. Then, as he focused, the water shimmered and changed, showing images of his choices, his intentions, and moments where he had acted selflessly. He saw himself not as a traveler or adventurer, but as someone who cared for others, even strangers. The reflection was subtle, yet it carried a weight that touched him deeply. "You see," Lyra said softly, "this is why the elders honor you. Your heart is what matters, not your strength or skills. That is the essence of our culture." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. He had always thought of courage as facing danger or surviving challenges, but here he realized that true courage was about making the choice to do what is right, even when it is inconvenient or risky. The sun began to rise, casting golden hues across the floating city. The light reflected off the crystals, the water, and the buildings, creating a spectacle that seemed almost magical. Ethan stood quietly, taking it all in. For the first time in his travels, he felt a sense of belonging, not because of what he could do, but because of who he chose to be. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "Come, Ethan, there is much more to see. The elders wish for you to meet others who have been inspired by your actions. They want to learn from you, as we have learned from you." Ethan smiled. Though he had arrived on Zephyra as a traveler, he now understood that his journey had become something much greater. Each step he took alongside Lyra, and the Sci-Fi was a step toward building trust, understanding, and friendship across worlds. Together, they walked through the city, greeted by Sci-Fi families who shared stories of how Ethan's act of courage had inspired them. Children pointed at him with wide eyes, hoping to understand what it meant to act with heart. Adults bowed slightly in respect, acknowledging the human who had shown that kindness was a universal language. As the day progressed, Ethan realized that the simple act of pulling Lyra from the fire had created a ripple that extended far beyond that single moment. It had sparked trust, admiration, and hope. He understood that even small actions, guided by genuine compassion, could shape the course of relationships, communities, and perhaps entire worlds. By the time the sun reached its zenith, Ethan and Lyra returned to the plaza where the day had begun. The elders awaited them, smiling warmly. "You have shown us that the heart can transcend distance, difference, and fear," the eldest said. "Your presence here has reminded us that courage and kindness are universal. We are grateful for you, Ethan, and for the bridge you have built between our peoples." Ethan bowed humbly. "I am grateful to be here," he said, "and I am honored to know all of you." Lyra placed her hand on his arm, a gesture of shared pride and understanding. "You have changed more than you know," she said, "and this is only the beginning." Ethan looked around at the floating city, the glowing gardens, and the Sci-Fi who now saw him not as a stranger, but as a friend. He felt a sense of purpose stronger than any he had known. What had begun as a simple act of helping someone in need had grown into a journey of connection, understanding, and hope, a journey that would continue to ripple through time and space. And as he stood there, surrounded by new friends and allies, Ethan knew that courage and kindness were more powerful than he had ever imagined. They could bridge worlds, unite hearts, and create bonds that would last far beyond a single moment. Ethan woke to a soft, warm light filtering through the translucent walls of Lyra's home. The floating city of Zephyra shimmered below, peaceful and alive, as if the events of the past days had woven a new harmony into the world itself. He stretched and felt the pendant against his chest and the crystal orb still resting near his side. These symbols of trust and connection were more than keepsakes. They were reminders of the bridges he had begun to build across species, a bridge that carried hope for both humans and Sci-Fi alike. Lyra appeared at the balcony, her luminous eyes reflecting the soft colors of dawn. "Good morning, Ethan," she said through her translator device. "The elders have requested that we visit the council hall today. There is much they wish to share, and others have come to meet you." Ethan nodded, curious. He had already experienced so much honor, recognition, and the warm embrace of a culture that valued heart over strength, but he understood that this journey was only beginning. He followed Lyra down the winding walkways of the city, feeling the gentle hum of the energy currents beneath his feet. Everywhere he looked, Sci-Fi moved with calm purpose, tending to floating gardens, repairing delicate structures, or sharing stories with one another. It was a world alive in both beauty and function. As they approached the council hall, Ethan noticed groups of Sci-Fi gathering, whispering excitedly and bowing slightly in respect. It was clear that his actions had already become a topic of admiration throughout the city. Children peeked curiously from behind floating planters, some waving shyly. Adults approached carefully, offering nods of appreciation. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. It was humbling to see how a single act of compassion had inspired so many lives. The council hall itself was grand, with a soaring ceiling made of crystal that refracted the morning light into 1,000 gentle rainbows. The elders awaited them inside, standing in a semicircle that exuded calm authority and wisdom. Behind them, others who had heard of Ethan's courage were seated, their eyes bright with anticipation. Lyra guided Ethan to the center of the room, where the elders' gazes settled upon him. "You have become more than a visitor to our world, Ethan," the eldest said. His golden-hued skin seemed to glow in the refracted light, and his eyes held the weight of long centuries. "Your courage has inspired a ripple that reaches beyond what you may ever know. We wish to formally welcome you not just to Sci-Fi, but into the legacy of those who act with true heart." Ethan felt a deep sense of humility. He had never sought recognition, yet the sincerity in the elder's words touched him profoundly. "I am honored," he said softly. "I did what anyone should do, help someone in need." The eldest nodded, smiling. "And that is precisely why it is extraordinary. Simple acts done without thought of reward shape worlds and hearts. Your example will be remembered here for generations." Lyra stepped forward, holding a small ceremonial vessel that shimmered with soft energy. "We wish to share with you the ceremony of unity," she said. "It is a tradition performed only when one has earned trust and honor among our people. It signifies that your spirit is now intertwined with ours." The elders gestured, and the vessel floated gently above Lyra's hands. A soft light poured from it, forming a pathway of glowing orbs that extended across the room. Each orb carried a memory of courage, compassion, and unity from Sci-Fi history. The light pulsed softly as Ethan walked along the pathway, each step illuminating a story of bravery and kindness. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered. He had seen many wonders across countless worlds, but this ceremony struck him deeply. Each orb seemed to communicate silently, telling him that every choice mattered, and that courage and kindness were recognized in ways beyond language or culture. When he reached the center of the pathway, Lyra guided him to kneel gently before a central orb, larger and brighter than the rest. "Place your hands here," she instructed. Ethan did so, and the orb responded, expanding its glow and enveloping him in warmth. In that moment, he felt the connection to every Sci-Fi present, every story of compassion, and every act of courage that had led to this day. "You are now part of our circle of unity," the eldest declared. "This is not an honor for yourself alone, but a bond with our people, a promise that humanity and Sci-Fi may walk together in trust and respect." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the gesture. He felt a sense of belonging unlike anything he had ever known. Across the room, the Sci-Fi who had come to meet him bowed, some kneeling in silent acknowledgement of the trust and unity being formed. Ethan's heart swelled with a quiet pride, not in himself, but in the bridge of understanding and friendship that had been created. After the ceremony, Lyra led Ethan to a terrace overlooking the city. The air was filled with the soft sounds of morning life, distant hums of energy bridges, the rustle of floating gardens, and the gentle chatter of Sci-Fi citizens. Ethan marveled at how the city seemed alive not just with light and energy, but with a spirit of harmony. You have changed more than just the view, Ethan, Lyra said softly. Your courage has shown us that the world outside our own can act with heart. That is something rare and precious. Ethan smiled. And you've shown me a world where every action matters, where kindness and courage are celebrated, not just admired. I've learned more here in a few days than in a lifetime of travels. They wandered through the city, visiting the floating gardens, where Ethan helped Lyra tend to delicate plants. He marveled at how the Scifi worked in harmony with nature, their hands brushing gently over glowing flowers that responded to touch with soft pulses of light. Children watched, fascinated, as he carefully adjusted the plants' positions. It was a simple, peaceful act, yet Ethan felt the same thrill he had felt during the rescue, helping, contributing, connecting. By midday, the elders had arranged a gathering for Ethan to meet more members of the city. Families, artists, scholars, and explorers, all who had heard of his bravery, came to welcome him. They shared stories of their own challenges and acts of courage, and Ethan listened intently, offering encouragement and understanding. In turn, he shared tales of his travels, the worlds he had seen, and the lessons he had learned about empathy, resilience, and the importance of small, thoughtful choices. Through these exchanges, Ethan saw the power of connection. Actions inspired actions, and kindness inspired kindness. A simple gesture, saving a life, had grown into a network of respect and shared learning. Lyra moved beside him, pointing out individuals whose lives had been affected by the story of the fire, and Ethan realized that what he had thought was an isolated act was, in fact, a catalyst for change. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting golden light across the city, the elders invited Ethan and Lyra to the central plaza once more. Here, they had prepared a final display to honor the unity that had been formed. A massive crystal structure rose in the center, absorbing the sunlight and reflecting it in dazzling patterns across the plaza. Holographic images of human and Scifi working together, laughing, sharing knowledge, and exploring the world together danced across the structure. This is a vision of what can be achieved when trust and courage guide our actions, the eldest explained. You, Ethan, have shown the path. Let this be a reminder that kindness has power and that friendship can bridge any distance, any difference. Ethan stood silently, watching the images shift and flow. He felt a profound sense of hope. He realized that the bonds being formed were not temporary. They were the beginning of a new era of understanding, one where humans and Scifi could learn from and support each other. Lyra's hand found his again, and she smiled. You've made a difference, Ethan, not just to me but to everyone here, and I believe this is just the beginning. Ethan looked around at the crowd, at the elders, at the children who now saw him as a friend and role model, and he felt a sense of purpose stronger than he had ever known. I promise, he said softly, I will do my best to honor this trust and to help build the connection between our worlds. As night fell, the city of Scifi shimmered with countless lights, floating gardens glowing softly, and crystal buildings refracting the colors of the stars. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, looking out over the city they now shared. The air hummed with energy and life, a quiet testament to the harmony that courage and kindness could create. For Ethan, the fire that had begun this journey was no longer a moment of fear. It was a spark that had ignited friendship, respect, and hope. In saving Lyra, he had opened a door to understanding, connection, and a brighter future for both humans and Scifi. And as he gazed at the city below, Ethan understood that even the smallest actions, guided by heart and intention, could ripple through the universe, touching lives and creating bonds that would last far longer than any one moment. The story of the human who pulled an alien girl from the fire would be remembered not for danger or heroism, but for what it truly represented: the power of courage, compassion, and friendship to transform worlds. Ethan turned to Lyra and smiled. Together they stepped forward, ready to walk the path of unity, knowing that their actions, small or large, could inspire generations and that hope, understanding, and heart were the most powerful forces in any galaxy.